Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Hanna-Barbera Secret Squirrel figure from Jazwares. So Jazwares' new Hanna-Barbera toy line has been producing some action figures that I honestly never thought I'd see action figures of. Some of these classic Hanna-Barbera characters coming to toy form is kind of exciting, and one of the ones that really stood out to me that I knew I had to buy was Secret Squirrel. Secret Squirrel comes on that Jazwares Hanna-Barbera blister card packaging with the bright greens and yellows, an image of Secret Squirrel on the bottom, and the Secret Squirrel cartoon nameplate at the top of the blister. The back of that packaging gives us a list of the different Hanna-Barbera cartoons that Jazwares is producing action figures of, as well as gives us this beautiful collage of Hanna-Barbera characters, some of which I really hope to see Jazwares tackle in action figure form. Alright, so let's take a look at Secret Squirrel outside of the packaging. Now he stands in the 3-inch scale, so he's a pretty small little action figure, and does a pretty good job of capturing the look of the character from the classic cartoon. It's a pretty decent sculpt and a good representation. The paint job on the figure is very simple, but it's clean, so there's no paint splotches or anything like that. However, it does look a little strange when you look close at the coat. There's a lot of weird little bubbles and mold lines, but honestly, that's just kind of something I have seen on a lot of Jazwares products, so it's kind of typical for Jazwares. Now, the articulation on this guy is very limited. First of all, you'll notice that the head does not turn at all. It's a solid piece. And that's because the top of the hat opens up for an action feature, which I'm going to show you in just a little bit. Now, the body itself is also just a solid hunk of plastic, so there's no articulation in his body at all. He does have ball-like joints at the shoulder, so he can move up and down and outwards. He has tiny little joints in the elbows for a little bit of movement, but not very much. No movement in the wrists or the hands. And then his feet underneath his body there, they can just swivel side to side. And then his tail is able to swivel side to side. So, for the most part, this guy's a solid hunk of plastic. You're not going to move him around very much. Basically, the only movement that kind of matters is the fact that his arms can move up and down, but even then, you're not going to get a lot of different posing out of him. So Secret Squirrel does come with a few accessories. First of all is a little pistol. This black solid piece of plastic is molded to fit in either one of his hands. You can see he's got a little trigger finger on both hands there, so you can have him holding the gun. He does hold it nice and firm, so that's pretty good. Unfortunately, since his head is solid and you can't turn it, not a lot of posing you can get out of him with that gun. You can't turn his head to the left or anything like that. He's basically always stuck pointing the gun forwards. Now, his second accessory ties into his action feature, which I briefly showed you. So there's a hinge joint on the top of the hat, folding it open, and when you look inside, you can see there's a little peg hole. Now, he includes this camera, and he's got this little articulated white rod with the camera. There's a little peg hole in the back of the camera, and then, of course, you can just take that little white rod there, and you can plug it into the peg hole that's down inside of his head, and then you can plug the other peg into the back of the camera. Now, forewarning, that's really loose. It doesn't hold tight in the camera or in the head. It's a very, very loose peg for some reason. It's almost as if the hole is too big for the peg, and I've tried flipping it around, but it's the same size on both ends. So you're going to have to mess with it a little bit, but if you can get it kind of jimmied around the right way, you can get the camera positioned so that it looks like it's coming out of his head, which is a little feature that we always saw Secret Squirrel using in the cartoon series. So there you go, guys. There's a look at the Secret Squirrel figure from Jazwares. It's an okay little figure. I'm not as happy with this one as I was with the Captain Caveman figure I looked at before him, but he still is a pretty cool looking guy. You can't really pose him with that camera and that little rod coming out of his hat very well because it does tend to fall over pretty easily, and unfortunately they don't fold up and fit inside if you're not using it. So you're going to have to kind of lay those off to the side if you want him posed with his hat closed up. Secret Squirrel and the rest of the Hanna-Barbera figures from Jazwares are in stores right now, so happy hunting, and until next time.